Pearl Abyss, the studio behind Black Desert Online, one of the most notoriously grindy MMOs ever made, has spent the last several years quietly building what might be the most ambitious single-player RPG since The Witcher 3. And I know how that sounds. I know every big game gets called ambitious, but I've gone deep on this one, past the trailers and the stage demos, and what I found genuinely surprised me, because some of the design decisions in Crimson Desert are so unusual, so against the grain of how modern open-world games are built, that they either signal a studio that has completely leveled up, or one that is catastrophically overreaching. Probably both. Let's start with the thing that genuinely stopped me cold. There is no XP bar in this game. No skill tree, no level up screen, no "you are now a level 12 warrior." The entire progression system is built around something Pearl Abyss calls mimicry, and the idea is deceptively simple. Kliff, your character, learns by watching the world. Walk past a fisherman on a pier and actually stop to observe him, and Kliff picks up fishing. Find a monk drilling a kata in some forgotten monastery courtyard, watch the full sequence, and those moves are now yours to use in combat. Get absolutely ragdolled by a captain who opens with a brutal body slam, survive the fight, and you can now do that exact body slam back to the next poor bastard who crosses you. The reason this matters isn't just that it's a cool party trick, it's that it completely reorients how you move through the world. Most open-world games are built around a loop where the map is an obstacle between you and the next XP reward. Crimson Desert flips that. The map is the reward. Slowing down, being curious, actually looking at what's around you, that's how you get stronger. That's a fundamentally different relationship between the player and the world, and I don't think people have fully appreciated how radical that is yet. Now, the base camp, Greymane, on the surface it looks like every other RPG hub you've ever seen, and I think that's actually a problem with how Pearl Abyss has been presenting it, because what it actually is runs much deeper than a rest stop. You recruit mercenaries called free swords, and the key thing to understand is that these aren't followers who trail behind you. They operate independently, on their own timelines, while you're out doing something else entirely. You can dispatch a unit to strip timber from the northern forests while you're exploring a dungeon 3 regions away. You can send a squad to harass the supply lines of a fortress you're planning to assault next month, softening it up, thinning the garrison, so that when you finally ride up to those gates yourself, the fight is already half won before your sword leaves its scabbard. And layered under all of that is a live economy inherited straight from Pearl Abyss's MMO DNA. Vendor prices shifting week to week based on what's been depleted, what routes have been cut off, what your free swords have been pillaging. The world is running its own quiet simulation whether you're paying attention to it or not. And then, and this is the part most previews completely gloss over, floating physically above the main continent is a place called the Abyss, not metaphorically above it, actually, structurally, in the sky. It's a realm of ancient floating platforms and old technology, and it operates like a completely different game. Physics puzzles, logic challenges, the kind of spatial reasoning you'd expect from a Zelda dungeon, except instead of a heart container at the end, you're earning Abyss artifacts. Those artifacts are the currency for upgrading your core stats, health, stamina, and for unlocking the game's more unhinged tools, including, yes, a missile-firing dwarven mech that you can pilot. The point is that the game's most powerful progression rewards are locked behind thinking, not fighting. That's an intentional design statement, and it means the two types of players who buy this game, the brawler and the explorer, are both going to feel like the game was built for them. The combat itself has gone through a significant overhaul from the early builds, and it's worth knowing what changed. The original version taxed stamina on everything, every light attack, every flick, every basic engagement draining the bar down, and it made the whole thing feel weirdly tentative, like a Souls game that was afraid of commitment. Pearl Abyss listened to the feedback and rebuilt it. Now your light attacks are free. Stamina only burns when you dodge, block, or throw out a special ability, which means your default combat state is aggressive, forward, relentless. You're chaining combos and staying in people's faces rather than managing a resource bar. Pair that with a grappling hook that lets you swing across terrain, rip enemies clean off their horses mid-charge, and tether yourself to walls for vertical traversal, add crow's wings for gliding, add actual rideable dragons, and the whole movement and combat system starts to feel less like an RPG and more like a physics sandbox where violence is one of the options. Now, here's where I have to be straight with you. Everything I've just described is, on paper, extraordinary, and I want this game to be extraordinary. But I've been doing this long enough to know that on paper is where games go to lie to you. The no microtransactions promise is the first thing to hold loosely. The PR line is clean. No cash shop, no cosmetics, premium game, done. And I believe that's true for day one. What's also true is that in a recent investor call, not a press release, not a carefully worded FAQ, an investor call, Pearl Abyss executives confirmed post-launch DLC and multiplayer expansions are on the roadmap to sustain the business. This is the studio that built one of the most monetized MMOs on the market. The shop is not a question of if, it's a question of when. More concerning to me is the map to playtime maths. The developers are claiming a world larger than Red Dead Redemption 2, twice the footprint of Skyrim. The investor-quoted playtime is 50 to 80 hours. Red Dead 2 occupies over 100 hours on a smaller canvas and still feels dense. If you're finishing Crimson Desert in 60 hours on a map that size, either the side content is set dressing rather than substance, or there are long stretches of that world where genuinely nothing is happening. A big map with nothing in it isn't an open world. It's a loading screen you have to ride through. And finally, the engine. Black Space is brand new, built from the ground up, and it is being asked to run a 135-gigabyte seamless world with no loading screens, real-time environmental destruction, and complex AI on a base PS5 at 60 frames per second. I am not saying that's impossible. I'm saying Cyberpunk said something similar. Anthem said something similar. Hold your pre-order until Digital Foundry has had a few days with the final build. So where does that leave us? Crimson Desert is a game built by a studio that has never made anything like it, swinging at systems that almost no one else has attempted, on an engine that has never shipped a product. The Mimicry progression, the free sword strategy layer, the Abyss as a physics puzzle dimension, and the rebuilt combat aren't features added to make a trailer look good. They're fundamental to how the game works, and that's rare. The ambition here is structural, not cosmetic, but a map twice the size of Skyrim is only impressive if there's a reason to be in every corner of it, and 50 hours isn't enough time to justify that scale unless every single hour earns its place. That's the question I keep coming back to. That's the one I want you to answer in the comments. Do you think Pearl Abyss has the depth to fill this world, or have they built a stage that's too big for their own show?